Hey everyone, Erin here from the Impatient Gardener. Today is an important day. We are planting up the first containers of 2024, first summer containers. Anyway, we've done a couple of spring. I'm so happy we're here. My favorite part of gardening by far. I absolutely love container gardening. So this year, when it comes to containers, I'm gonna be doing some weird stuff. I'm putting in weird plants, going off script a little bit, doing some odd things. These two containers are not that odd. Having said that, these are pretty, you know, there's nothing too wild and crazy here. So we are planting up the driveway containers. These two pots have been here for, I don't know, a lot of years. First I did Desdemona roses, David Austin roses in them. There might have been a couple of other years where I did something else, but then I got really sick of spending a lot of money on a centerpiece for these planters to throw it away at the end of the year, because they sit right on the edge of our apron along our patio. They kind of, you know, set the stage for the front door. They need something important and big in them because they're kind of floating out in the middle of nowhere. So for a while, for 2 years, we did pagoda dogwood in them, a multi-stem pagoda dogwood. That was beautiful. Loved it. Those lived happily in those pots for 2 years. Then they wanted to get out of those pots, so we planted them in the yard, and one of them is still alive. They both transplanted really well. One of them was demolished by deer, so it's not really the fault of the plant, it just was the fault of the deer. Then after that, we did 2 multi-stem birch, white spire birch trees, and that was beautiful. I loved that look. It was really nice. They were very tall. It was in keeping with the scale that we're dealing with here. It was kind of loose. It wasn't too formal. I didn't want anything formal. So there was no way I was going to do like a topiary or like a skinny evergreen. That was not right for this space. So the birch trees came out of there with a lot of fight last year, and I was left with trying to figure out what we're going to do this year. And I don't like to repeat things, but I almost went with birch trees. So one of my thoughts was that bamboo would be really cool in there. First of all, because bamboo, there are very few bamboos here that are hardy, and the ones that are hardy are pretty aggressive. It's not like we can easily find bamboo here. And when we do, it's small, and I didn't want to deal with small. And then I thought of a few other things, actually got some great ideas for some plants when I reached out to somebody for some suggestions, but I couldn't find any of those plants. So a lot of times when I'm looking for plants for a container, I really need to work backwards and start with what can I find, and then what do I want from there, rather than what do I want and can I find it? Because that's a good way to sort of run yourself ragged in circles. So I decided to go with multi-stem birch trees. And when I called the company where I got them from, I said, how big are they? She said, oh, 6 or 7 feet. I said, perfect, I will take 2. And then a couple days ago, I went to pick them up. Let me show you them. Here are my 2 multi-stem 6-foot tall trees. Yeah, they were huge. I actually borrowed the work van in order to get them home. And I thought, oh, I probably don't even need this. I could probably gotten these in my car, but I'll take it anyway. And then they were smashed up against the windshield. They were so big. So they're too big for these pots. They will not be happy in those pots. It's not really the look I like. One of them is actually a little bit, you know, one of the trees on this one is really kind of floppy and sticks out funny. None of this is not the look for me. Fortunately, we have a property that can absorb more trees, so we can find a place for these. I mean, I wish I hadn't bought them. I wouldn't have bought them anyways, but they'll be great. We've got a spot to put them, so they're going there. So then I went on a mad hunt for what was next, and let me show you what we ended up with. I am gonna go with a pair of Golden Curls willow in these pots. Now I wish they were a little bit bigger to begin with. So this is either fortuitous or ironic, but when I did a big garden tour in Philadelphia last year, in the Philadelphia area, at one of the houses, they had this amazing planter that was centered with a very large what I think was a Golden Curls willow, and it was beautiful. And I made a lot of mental notes about that and thought, well, that's something to keep in the back of my head. Anyway, I loved it. It caught my eye. I made a lot of mental notes about it and then kind of forgot about it, sort of. clearly it was still there, because when I saw this, I thought, oh, that's what we're gonna do. So I actually went out and bought the rest of the plants that are gonna go in the base here. And I think I'm copying that planter quite a bit. I will show that to you. And if I can remember the homeowner's name or look it up, I will let you know who that is too. Credit where credit is due, of course. So we are doing willows in these pots, and I'm hoping they grow quickly. Hoping we can get, if I water them a lot, I'm hoping we can get a lot of height out of these. So these are the pots. I've been using them for a long time. I got them from the Restoration Hardware Outlet very long time ago and stained them. They were yellow when I got them. I've restained them once or twice. And you might remember, if you watched, that last year we had a hard time getting those birch trees out of these pots. So what we did was we, this is like fiber cement basically. We filled this lid in, or this lip, excuse me, in with expanding foam. So maybe that'll make this process easier because the roots are not gonna grow up underneath that. I have already filled in these containers with a cocktail of soil. I started fresh, which I don't always do, but I did for these because they were fully empty. The whole root ball was the soil mass last year, so it all came out. So the soil mixture that I used here was some of Organic Mechanics Premium Potting Mix Blend. Then I did a little bit of their planting compost mix. A little bit more of that, a little bit more of the premium potting blend. And then I filled up the top with just their regular container blend, which is a little bit lighter. So I thought the annuals that we're gonna put around the top are gonna appreciate that a little bit more. And then I've just got these pots sitting in here for the time being. So, so I could kind of measure the level of my soil. I am gonna mix in a bit of biochar blend in here. I use biochar blend everywhere all the time. The goal is about 10%, or sort of the maximum you can use is 10%. I'm just gonna put a couple of handfuls in. I think that planting compost blend has a little bit of it in actually. So I'm just gonna mix in a little bit of that, and well, let's just go. I am not the least bit surprised that we're a little bit pot bound on the bottom here. So I am just gonna take the soil knife and just cut that a little. They're not really going in circles or anything, which is good, but just to break those a little bit. All right. Now I'm just going to add in a little bit of the biochar, maybe 2 handfuls. Sort of mix that in, and then now we're going in with more of the regular container blend. I go through a lot of Osmocote when I'm doing containers, but usually one of these big, I think it's an 8-pound bag, usually gets most of my containers done. And I do add it to all the containers. Except the ones that I'm growing food in. Those I do not put it in ones I'm growing food in. And that's not because you can't or anything, it's just because I choose to grow the food organically, and that is not an organic product. Okay, we're gonna start with lemon licorice plant. You are gonna see a lot of chartreuse in this garden this year. I've always liked chartreuse, and I think I'm kind of doubling down on it this year. No, that is not centered. So I'm gonna try to just do 2 of these in here. I'm gonna go with sort of a classic. This is Sunpatiens. This is Compact Deep Rose. I was actually looking for sort of a corally color, but the one that they call coral pink is kind of bland, and I wanted something bright here. My hope is that it will intermingle with the Helichrysum as we go here. So we're gonna do 4 of those, 2 on either side. And these do get quite big. I have a vague recollection right now that somebody once told me that Sunpatiens do not like fertilizer. And I have always put fertilizer in with them, but you know what? We have 2 pots side by side. I will not do the fertilizer in the other one. Or I'll do less. How about this? I'll do less fertilizer in the other one, and we'll see if it makes a difference. All right, let's do the second one. So a couple of notes about some of the decisions I made with this container. The first one, you notice there isn't any like true trailers. The Helichrysum will definitely trail a little bit. These Sunpatiens will probably not do that, although they will form a big enough mound that they'll sort of soften that edge a little bit. It seems like there was a time where I felt like every container had to be just dripping with trailers, and that's not always a look that I necessarily like. And I do like this to be a little bit cleaner. I just like to see a little bit more pot on this planting all the time. So not any big trailers for this. And like I said, I do think this will soften and there will be some intermingling here. At least that's my hope. And of course, my other hope is that this grows very quickly. Lastly, a real benefit to this is that I often use curly willow in my winter containers. And I already have the curly willow in these containers if I choose to leave these out and do these up somewhere. They wouldn't be in this spot, but somewhere else for winter containers. But my goal is to have these willows live in these pots for at least a couple of years, and then we can take it from there. All right, first container planting of the year checked off the list. Thank you for watching. I can't wait to show you what's coming next. Stay tuned.